Hello, Stitchers. Welcome to Stitch Please, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. I'm your host, Lisa Woolford. I'm a fourth-generation sewing enthusiast with more than 20 years of sewing experience. I am looking forward to today's conversation, so sit back, relax, and get ready to get your stitch together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of the Stitch Please podcast. This episode is not so explicitly about sewing as much as it is about helping you get your stitch together as we head into the end of the year and turning into 2021. This episode is about planning and planners and making plans. And specifically, I was interested in how people use paper planners. I am a big paper person. I really like writing things down. I wrote my entire dissertation by hand in a series of notebooks, and then I typed it over again. Because for me, that paper and pen interaction, I remember when I would read an article, I would summarize it in blue. I would write the direct quotes in red, and then I would write my own commentary in pencil. And then I would merge all that together. And I know for sure that red for direct quotes came from my upbringing as a Baptist. And in our Bible, all of the words from Jesus were in red. So for me, I was using like direct quotes that I still remember the system, and I still have some of those notebooks. But the point for me today is to help us explore this connection between the tactile processes of writing something down on a sheet of paper and sewing something, which is similarly tactile. So I am not alone today. I am joined by some fantastic charter members of Black Women Stitch. And if you are a Patreon subscriber, you will get a chance to see the video of some of these people heckling me as I am making the introduction to this episode. I am joined today by Deborah, Nikki, Tony, Quinora, Shauna, and Naomi. There'll be some other folks maybe popping in and out, but welcome to the program, everybody. You can unmute yourselves and say hey.
Hey.
And thank you
the
all.
Whole dissertation?
Yes. It's something about writing something by hand.
No. I wrote mine on a computer. I made notes by hand, but I wrote on my computer. I wrote my dissertation using the computer.
It's just something about that pen to paper, the sound of the pencil scratching along. It feels like I'm making something. So I'm really deeply attached to pens and paper, almost like Naomi.
All of us had the same facial expression when you said that. We all were like,
I just ordered a ream of paper from Amazon because I like paper, but no. Was your dissertation 3 pages?
Barack Obama just said that he wrote his entire 700 and some page tome on legal pads and pen. He said that's the way he wrote it, and then he has this whole thing up on Instagram talking about his writing process, which I found fascinating. And I do believe there's a connection to pen and paper. It wires into my brain, so I do love that. I love notebooks. I love paper. I love planning. But my dissertation was 300 pages, and I wrote it on a computer.
Exactly.
I don't remember things if I don't write them down. I'm a firm believer in pencil and paper. How and ever.
A dissertation?
Right, a whole dissertation?
A whole book.
With color
something about the feel of that, of typing feverishly.
And y'all, she used 3 different instruments.
Yes. You had color changes.
This was red.
The red, that's brilliant.
If it wasn't in red, Jesus didn't say it. So I had the concept.
But y'all, didn't she have 3 different sewing machines set up?
That's true. I did used to have 3 machines set up, and I don't right now. I only have the sewing machine and the serger. I put away the cover stitch thinking, I'll just pull it out when I need it, which is apparently never.
Right. You did the same thing. 3 different instruments. That's just like changing machines.
That's
threads.
Well,
good for you, Lisa. Good for you, Doctor.
Like on Deborah's page, I love notebooks. Like
all of the planning for the podcast takes place on notebooks that are this size. And I have 4 of them over there from the first, I think we've done 76 episodes so far. And so for me, I just like that feeling. And I connect it to paper because paper and fabric are connected. They're both, it can be natural fibers. They have warp and weft. You can tear a paper in a certain direction. It has similar properties. Mm-hmm. So there's something about it that I do absolutely love. We're getting started to think about our planners, and I thought I would start. This feels more like this is a confession, but this is just a small sampling of the planners that I have known and loved for one sentence and then discarded.
Yeah.
I got this book, which now reminds me of some giant clown college manual. It's gigantic with the big rings, but I went all out. I made stickers. I made custom stickers for myself. I took, like all of my appointments and stuff. I did it almost like a journal style so I can look back and, oh, look at this one. So this was the month in 2018 where it was my birthday month. We went to Hamilton on Broadway. I went to the African American Quilt Guild retreat. I had all these different meetings and other kind of work-related things. Mm-hmm. And so there I am, like really involved, really into it. And then next thing you know, like April rolls around, conference, then more April. And the rest of this book is blank.
I have three years of books just like that.
That's like
3 years. Every year I bought a new one. I bought a fancier one. I'm going to get it together this year.
Yeah.
And if I pull them out, they're just like that. January, February, heavily populated. I was going to do it, empty the rest of the year. Or I might have popped back in August and be like, oh, look, I found my planner. Let me put some stuff down.
And that's funny. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, I was just going to say, then it was over again.
And it's funny to me because you are a planner. Like that's your job as a project manager means that you have to like do a lot of stuff and plan it out. And yet you are the rest of us mortals with the...
Yeah. It's something about, my husband calls it making the donuts. I think there's like a Dunkin' Donuts commercial years ago where the guy was just like, time to make the donuts. And it's just, once I finish doing that all day for other people and then I'm not getting their stuff done and having like, you would think I'm very organized, but that is not the case. But can I keep others organized? Yes. But when it comes to me, I'm just like, I don't feel like it anymore. Like, I don't want to make any more donuts.
That's right.
I mean, I use mine. I was knocked off the rails with COVID and life changing. I like this one. I use a Passion Planner. It's a plain one from last year. And so I like stickers. I make stickers and print stickers. So this is my January. And I use different boxes. This was Founders Week, so of course I had lots of people in there. And yeah, I make stickers, print stickers, buy stickers. But I will stay with something if it works for me. So this one is like 80% there. I like the spacing. I like how it's organized. Mm-hmm. And I am not one of those people that needs a separate book for every activity. So I have to pick a book that I can put everything in. Mm-hmm. So this was my birthday week. So I got glitter on my birthday. Yeah, so I keep up with my studio work. I'm an artist. I keep up with people's appointments, birthdays, folks that I'm responsible for helping. Work stuff only goes in here if it overlaps with my actual life. Otherwise, I keep an electronic calendar for that I can pick up from anywhere on my phone. So this one is one I'm finishing up for this year. And I think y'all know I repurpose pages I don't like. So they have a bunch of questions, but I plan like my paintings and stuff in here, and I just cover the sections I don't like with washi tape. And I think y'all also know that I like to do vision boards at the start of the year. So my vision board actually goes in the front of my planner. So I have one just about life in general, and then this one was about my business. And that way, if it's always with me, I can stay focused. Then this one, I went bigger this year. This is my book for this year. And I've already, because they had a logo, I don't want their logo on the front of my planner, so I drew somebody. And I got a bigger one so that I can have a little more space to do planning. And so I'll decorate the cover, and then in December, I will do some what I call conscious closeout, where I ask myself questions about what happened over the year. Who knows what this one's going to look like this year? And then I'll do the vision board, and then I'll start planning for the year. That's my story.
You even got
I think it's funny that you said that COVID threw you off if you're planning, and COVID had the opposite effect on my planning. And the planner that would normally have gone empty is full. Like, I use the planner all year long. Every week, it's like I went back through it, preparing for this conversation. Every week, I consciously sat down and made a plan. And again, I just told you how I couldn't get past February before, but for whatever reason, COVID made me go, well, let's write this stuff down and make sure I get it done. And I've got multiple different types of checklists. And
yeah, I came back, but I know for mine, it's not as decorative. So basically, this is what it looks like now. It's black and white. I have my workouts in here, stuff I'm tracking, and it's much simpler. It just took me a minute to adjust to what life was like. And so I just stopped for a minute. But you're right, writing it down to not have to pull it out of the sky all the time, but know what's coming, it does make a difference. That's why I like to do it. So
that's very cool, Deborah. What I heard Deborah say was you have your digital calendar. That's what I can't do. I have to have everything. So there's no, like when I was working, it was working for someone else. Yeah, I had that digital calendar, but I have to have everything. And it takes me so long. So if they stop making this, I have to search for another one. And if you can look, I usually, like this year, I didn't find this one until January, but wait a minute. I didn't find it until January, and it's full. It's like mad full because I put everything in it. Everything, every page looks like this, and it gets really crazy. I like the little stickers and stuff, but that's just another task. I'm gonna try it because I think it looks good. And this is my main tool. I buy these by the case. I've been using these since '97. And if Papermate ever stopped making these, I'd be in trouble. I draft with these. So this is part of my planning, and I have to have the pages. Like here's the month. I have to look at the month because I'm visual. If someone asks me, what are you doing next Friday? I can see it in my head because I've been living on this. But then there's pages behind that I can take notes and plan and all of that space. So I have to have everything in one place.
Is that a particular brand of planner that you prefer? I heard you say you couldn't find it for a while.
No, it's not a particular brand. I usually start at CVS and I end up at whatever other store. And because they'll start like in October and go through the next December.
That's like an 18-month one.
Yeah, and I just look for it, and I don't care what it looks like. I just have to have the pages that I need. And sometimes because it goes out or whatever, I can't find that same exact one. So I end up with another. So if you look at my last 3 of these, they're all different, but they still had the same capability on the inside. Does that make sense? Same pages. So, but I like that sticker thing. I think I was introduced to that at the retreat with Tony.
Yeah, Tony does wonderful.
Yeah,
she's like planner. She's one of those planner girls.
I don't believe in buying a whole bunch of sticker books, so I only own 20 sticker books. So I was like,
only. Can you really say I'm only gonna buy 20 yards of fabric today? Like,
no, I only keep 20 sticker books. I've seen other planners have like hundreds of sticker books. I only keep 20 because I'm like the space that all those sticker books can take up. And I use them to have inspiration with the stickers, and just sometimes you just want to have something that looks nice. I'm not as artistic as Deborah that I can sketch all that stuff. So sometimes I want stickers that look like me, or I'm celebrating somebody's birthday and I want to put that in. My planner holds my finances, my monthly budget, and it holds my weekly, and usually my fitness. But my Bible planner holds just my scripture writing and readings, because it was a planner that was gifted to me, and I love it because it's lavender and it has a zipper. So I only have 2 planners, and that's it. I won't have 10 planners to be flipping through, because if you don't see your planner, you're not going to use your planner.
Yeah, that's so right, Tony. I'm one of the ones that had a whole bunch of planners. I had one for my finances. I had one for health and wellness. I had one for the business. I had one for sewing. I had my phone that houses like all the kids' appointments and all that type of stuff. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I can keep everything straight because it has its own book. It has its own place. Let's just say they ain't last all of 3 weeks.
That becomes a job.
Yeah.
Just to keep up with all the different planners. That's why one for me.
It's like you need to hire Shauna to manage your planner life.
Yeah.
Like she would help you develop some.
I would be better at that than I am with managing my own planner.
You need a project manager to help you manage your planner.
Your planner.
It's too much.
I have other books, like I have my sketchbook that I do sewing, sketching, and I've got like just little notebooks, like the acid dyeing that I do. I took this. If you ever need a book, you can go put your hand on a blank book, because I never throw them away. You get a journal, somebody gifts you something. I have a girl that gifted me a blank pages journal, and she had my name on it. Ain't no way I can throw that away. so yeah. I have that.
Contemplating multiple planners for next year, now that I've gotten this one planner thing down, because the planner that I've been using, it was just one of these happy planners from Joann's, and the way I started planning out my makes and my sewing and creating the sewing plans and how I was going to break all that down every week, I like the format of this, but the way I need to plan out my life and my individual goals or my professional goals or things of that nature don't really fit in here. And my sewing plans don't really fit in the other planner that I've chosen to work out my life plans in. So I'm contemplating multiple planners.
So this is something I was asking, and I wonder what you think about this. In what way do you make your planner more than just a to-do list? What is the difference between having a to-do list and having a planner that has things where it's scheduled, that has like, why would someone even need to buy a planner when they could just get a 79-cent notebook and write stuff down?
The Stitch Please podcast is really growing. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast and ask a favor. If you are listening to this podcast on a medium that allows you to rate it or review it, for example, Apple Podcasts or iTunes, please do so. If you're enjoying the podcast, if you could drop me a 5-star rating, if you have something to say about the podcast and you wanted to include that, a couple sentences in the review box of Apple makes a really big difference in how the podcast is evaluated by Apple, how it becomes more visible. It really is a way to lean into the algorithm that helps to rank podcasts. So if you had time to do that, to drop a little line in the review feature of the podcast, that would be really appreciated, and it would help us to grow even further and faster.
Stuff in a to-do list.
So I feel like for me, what I did was this planner I have has these little sheets that you can put in. So I put my sewing plan here. So I think this was from November. Like, here are the patterns I plan to make, or here are the makes I plan. And then when I sit down every week, then I plan out the task I'm going to do. So like here, I don't know if I cut out the pattern. Like this today, I'm going to cut the pattern out. Or this is for the coat class, I'm going to cut the coat fabric, so that for this week, I know the steps that I need to take in order to complete the plan that I have for the month. It's a I have a to-do list for the month, but then I break that down into the task that I need to complete every day of the upcoming week in order to get the to-do list done. So for me, that's the difference between like just having a to-do list and then recognizing the task that it takes to complete those to-dos.
So what I'm hearing you say is that a to-do list does not have to be an alternative or even in competition with a planner, that basically a to-do list can be incorporated into an overall plan.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I did. And earlier in the year, pre-COVID, I would literally share the 5 to-dos I have. It's like the 5 things for this week. And so these are the 5 things I need to do. And then through that week, I break down the tasks to get that done. So it's incorporated into the planner physically by this little slip. But even if I didn't have that, everything that needs to happen is still here as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I do the same thing that Shauna does. I think that helps you. So I have a to-do list. I have the main goal, the tasks that allow me, or the steps that I need to follow through with to get there. I put inspirational quotes in here. I have recipes. And I can also cross-reference from month to month. So I use the big month calendar as an index for what's happening in case I need to go back to refer to something. So yeah, because it's one thing to write a list, but if you don't break down the list into steps to make them achievable, then you're just making a list. And then you find yourself carrying over the list from week to week because you haven't set a strategy down to accomplish what it is you want to accomplish.
Can we just hold on there a second, Deborah, and stay with that a minute? I really like that because you are planning to use your planner in a way that sets you up for success. Mm-hmm. And so I do sometimes do this. I'll have a to-do list, or I'll have a list of ideas. I'll write it down. I'll keep adding and adding. But then I've not done anything with it. And then I have to go back to it and figure out like what I'm going to do next. I think this idea, which reminds me of what Shauna was saying about breaking things down into their components, that the way that you're using your planner it's just like it's almost like a recipe book for success. And that it's really innate to you in the way that you work. I couldn't go and pick up your planner and have it work for me because you customized it to just you. And so I'm wondering if you think that there's some kind of connection at all between planning something down on a sheet of paper and then taking practical steps to control the way time works in one's life.
I do. I think for me, when I write things down and when I set a plan, I'm calling things into my life. I'm calling in the things that I hope for and dream for. It's one thing to sit there and, I wish, but if you want to do it, how are you going to do it? And so I do think that there's a connection in doing that. And that's the other reason why I like to have the vision board in the front too. So I can look back and see, those things happen. You're not always conscious of it at the time, but I actually achieved even this year a good, probably 85% of the things I hope to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. Because, again, when I went back and looked through this planner, all the things that I checked off, I was like, that visual confirmation that I was getting stuff done. Mm-hmm. Even as chaos reigned, I was getting things done, which in previous years, I could get to the end of the year and really be like, what did I do this year? But I had no record of it. I didn't have a plan for it. I didn't have a record for it, which again is why I was like, this works so well. And I feel so accomplished by what I set out, like just going back through and looking at all the things that I crossed off or checked off and then opening up my closet and looking at all the things I made. And I was like, shucks, look at that. Obviously, I have more time, but the fact that I planned that time and then I executed in that time and being able to see that plan has inspired me to go, okay, I did that. I was consistent in that. I am consistent in that. Let me see if I can apply that to the rest of my crazy life.
That's the things I feel like go off the rails for me. Like a large part of my actual professional work is planning for every minute of every single day, which helps to keep my classroom running smoothly. And then it goes completely off of the rails for my personal life. Like I said earlier, I like to write things down. And so I have a nice hefty book that I use as a planner. And I've used this particular style of planner for, I think, 3 years now. So this one is, I always get them to run from July through December of the following year. Mm-hmm. And I wind up getting the next one. I never get to September, October, November in the following year because school starts again. And so I got to ramp up for school. So the end, really, in this book, it went to hell in March. There were many things. And then basically all I did in this planner from mid-March through the end of the school year was like write down how many days, what day of virtual school were we on. It's just a book of sadness, honestly, when I was just flipping through it. What did the last year look like? I can put that over to the side. But yeah, like y'all saw at the very beginning, I love a Post-it. And so I have little serial killer notes all over the place on Post-its because I'm like, oh, I need to put that in my planner if I don't have it right at fingertip. Oh, I need to put that in my planner. And I wind up with a bunch of lists that just go from month to month. So since March, I've been saying I had oh, it's so sad. A list of all of my sewing that I was going to get done when I thought quarantine was going to be 2 weeks. I had two Post-its full of things that I was going to get done. Of the things on this list, I have accomplished one-ish.
Yes.
One-ish. Because it's just a list. So it never goes from, this is what you want to do. Break it down into the parts that you need to do to get it done. And I think that a large part of that is because that's what I do for like work all the time. I don't want to do it.
You don't want to make the donuts.
For my personal life. But I still have all these things that I want to do. And so I just keep taking my Post-it. My Post-it has gone from the old book into the new book. And
do you think, Naomi, that this is a structural limitation based on the planner that you've chosen? Because I'm thinking I only mentioned that because I have a planner similar to the one that Shauna was just showing. And it has this ability to take a list or even a sticky note that's formatted for the book, and you put it in there, and then it's there. And I guess I could certainly pass it on from month to month, but at least I would see it and incorporate it. That's what I thought was interesting about what Shauna had described. Like, I think essentially what we're all trying to figure out, what I am trying to figure out is how do you turn a to-do list into an actual plan? Not enough just to write it all down. And sometimes it's good to have reminders of the things you're interested in. But if there's things you want to accomplish, everything you write on that list has to have a plan behind it.
Your list, because in the front of this planner is the larger list of here's all the things I want to sew this year. And it's 3 pages long. But then every month I would go through the list and pick out, here are the 2 or 3 or 5 or however many I thought I could accomplish, things that I am going to sew this month.
Right.
And then they would go on the monthly plan,
right.
This was in November, plan every month. They would go on the smaller one, and then I would move them from the larger list to the more focused monthly list. And then the plan, I would break the plan down from here. If I was going to, even here, I started, even in this list, I was going to do what's this M5525. It was like, cut the pattern, cut the fabric. These are simple things. Like, it's not, I didn't get detailed. It's literally like, one day I got to sit down and cut the pattern out. One day I got to sit down and cut the fabric out.
Right.
And then the weeks just literally go, Monday, that's the night I'm going to sit down and cut out the pattern. Tuesday, that's the night. And so by doing that, the hope or the plan is that by the Saturday and the Sunday, which is when I would concentrate on the majority of that sewing, everything that I needed to get done to do the sewing had already been done. Mm-hmm. And then I could go back and mark it off the smaller list and then go back and mark it off the larger list. So even if you start with that larger list, just breaking it down to a smaller list and then breaking that smaller list down to task.
Mm-hmm. To me, there's a psychological component of it too, because as Shauna was saying, when you break those things down, you make them manageable when they're bite-sized. And then as you check things off, you have a sense of accomplishment. It spurs you on to do more. You have a plan. And I've had this experience before that Naomi was describing. I have all these things I want to do over the weekend, and then the weekend comes and there's so much I want to do. I get paralyzed and I don't do anything. So what I started doing was reminding myself, here's some of the things I want to accomplish. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I wanted to do that. And then I already have it broken down and I can go tackle that. So that helps me not suck up so much time trying to figure out what it is I want to do. And the other
I want you to mind your business about my weekends, please and thank you.
Oh, mine used to be before I started keeping a running list. And I have a master list, and then the lists get broken down by months, and then I break things down. So that helps me, it keeps me inspired, it keeps me motivated to keep going. But I realize not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah, and once you start to see things come off of that larger list,
exactly.
It's something like Deborah says, something I was like, oh, look at me, I'm getting stuff done. Let me grab a couple more. Let me plan those couple more. It gives you momentum to keep going.
I have to do that for myself. And even though all the big rocks are in here, but I love the Post-it notes that go on the wall. Okay, so that one there, those are the big rocks. And I got a bunch of check marks that I've done. So daily, I can look and say, did I get this done? So this sheet doesn't change, except it's like the big major stuff that has to happen. And then the bottom sheet is weekly. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, the bottom sheet gets changed weekly because these are the big projects that I'm working on. Now, that one project may go on next week's sheet. I need that daily, what did I do today?
I think that's just proof that planners can take a lot of different forms. Like, it doesn't have to be this happy planner from wherever, or it can take any form that works for you.
It's just finding what it is that works for you and keeping up with it. Because similar to Deborah and Nikki, you have all these things that you want to do and you're like, okay, I know I want to do it on Saturday, and then Saturday gets here and you have this whole big thing you want to do and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? How do I do it? And then it comes to where you have these deadlines, and I'm just like in Nikki and probably a lot of people, you have these deadlines. And if you're like me, you will pull an all-nighter to make sure you get the deadline done.
Get it done.
That I had to do this week, for instance. And it's not it's not what you want to do consistently in your business. It's not a good habit to make. Trying to do all-nighters and doing things at the last minute. So hopefully I got this new planner, and before I show y'all this planner, y'all don't laugh.
What do you think? Were we able to do it without laughing? Here's what we said.
Okay.
And here's what happened.
Because this is the planner.
Wait, let me pin you. Let me spotlight you because I'm having trouble believing what I'm seeing. Hold, please.
The planner. Y'all, when this planner was delivered, my husband was like, what did you get? A college textbook?
It was a telephone book.
Wow.
This is the planner. And I got it because it goes to what Lisa was saying, where you don't want your planner to be a to-do list. And when I saw her...
I said, don't make your planner a to-do list. I didn't say go buy you a whole new Bible.
It's something planner for intentional living.
So she has these different pages like this one where you write down what you intend to do on the month, and then you break down those intentions into these bite-sized pieces, how y'all were saying, and what are you going to do to achieve it. And so she has all these different things to help you like really write down Like, why do you want to do this? Why is this goal important? How are you going to get to the big goal? And putting it in those like bite-sized pieces, like it's 6 pages every month.
Wow.
Taking your big goals and putting them in bite-sized pieces.
That's too much for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would have just been overwhelmed by the book.
I know, that's me too.
I just would have been overwhelmed by the size of it. I just would have looked at it and been like, I wouldn't have wanted to say it, but I can't do this. It looks like work.
It is a lot.
So you would say, OMG.
Like,
would you
that's what I
travel
told y'all
with that, Quinora? Would you travel with it?
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And Quinora, I guess for me, you chose that because you believe it's going to work for you. And I like what Tony was saying. And Tony said, and I don't want, and you can, and please clarify, Tony, if I'm misquoting you, because if you don't see your planner, you won't use your planner.
Yeah.
Right. And so
I'm gonna see this.
I was about to
No, that thing in the middle, y'all notice she didn't open the middle. That thing has more hours in the day.
How much does it weigh?
Girl, this is
like 3 pounds at least.
It's got to be. Like, this is a lot. This thing is heavy.
Yeah. I'm very interested in how it works for you. It just it looks like a lot.
I would like to propose a weekly check-in on this.
Sure.
I may need it, but I'm hoping that like really writing it down in one place. That was the other thing, because I went from 5 of these. I had like 5 of these to now 1, which I guess makes sense. 6 of these equal 1 of this. But I'm hoping to put everything in one place.
Good luck with that. I think
this is my golden book.
Yeah.
I think it's compatible with what you are looking for. And if you are of the opinion that if you have this planner and it's going to change your life, you want it to not be the size like this. You want it to be hefty and substantial because your life is substantial. I can see why that would be an attractive thing. I'm excited. And I also
You're going to come to next year's meeting. Look, y'all.
So it's like using whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Like the one that Jill introduced us to, the full focus one that is broken into quarters. I thought that was genius. I don't want to say I immediately ordered it, but I did some research and then I immediately ordered it. I was like, I can chunk out 3 months. It doesn't feel as overwhelming. And I was like, oh, if I just sit down and focus on these 3 months, which is how we do things at work. We plan quarterly, and it works for us. It's very efficient. So why not try to figure out my life that way?
Yeah.
So whatever works for you. So I'm very interested to see how that system works. Just like I'm very interested to work through this full focus process and see how that one works for me. But whatever works for you.
You have me at intentional living. I like that. If that content, that lends to that content, you're a winner with that one.
And the thing for me that I find so exciting, and one of the things why I wanted to do an episode like this using the paper planners, is that it was through talking with Deborah and Jill and other folks, and I think Tony does this as well. If the book doesn't totally suit you 100%, you can modify it to make it do so. And I don't know why I felt like I was today years old when Deborah showed how she had completely transformed some terrible advice that was in the planner that she didn't like and covered it with washi tape. And I was like, and so it's funny because I went from my planner looking like this, and I like this productivity planner. That's what I was using. And I used this all of 2018 and 19, and it does time chunking, which is like the Pomodoro method, to this, where I was able to that quote is so repressive and I hate it. So now I can cover it with this beautiful tape that I got from the Capital Chic, the Black woman owned one that's in DC. And so now it's so much better.
Yeah.
So I thought of reminding people too that you don't have to in sewing, we don't have to follow or color within the lines. You can do that same thing for your planner and let that also be a metaphor for your life. You get to do with it what you want. Do you have any advice that you would offer to anybody as we move out of 2020 and into 2021 that a planner might help with? Do you have an idea of what, I guess some people call it planner peace, where you find the planner that like meets every need all the time. It might be the one Quinora's got because she's certainly getting the award for having the biggest. But is there something that you think, okay, if I really get into this will help me get off on a strong start? I don't know if you think in those ways at all about your planning.
So the idea of the full focus planner for me is appealing, but I have some habits around starting things and then not finishing them. So before I committed so financially to the full focus planner, because I feel like it was about $60, I went right on down to the Marshalls and said, okay, I have my one planner that I use, and it's really just a list of things. So before I go off buying something else that I'm only gonna halfway use, I'm the queen of serial killer notes. So I got, like, this was a pattern that I cut out, and also some math instruction was happening here too. But I started to write out, what do I actually want in a planner? And like, it was in the polos when those conversations were happening, I keep coming back to this little note that I wrote. I want to have a weekly view on the calendar that I can break into 3 parts that are like birthdays and stuff that I want to remember, like a schedule so I know where I need to be, and then my to-do list, because I really do like lists. I like making lists. So I know that's something that I need to have in a planner, because I want somewhere to have my lists so that I can put them somewhere where I'm going to see them. Right. But the idea of having the vision board in the planner instead of something that I go to a party with girlfriends and make and then never put on the freaking wall, so I never look at it. Every year I'm like, oh, that was my vision board for the year. I want to have a monthly sewing planner in there. I want to have some habit trackers. So when I had this list of things that I wanted in a planner, when I went down to the Marshalls to get my little $6 book, that I'm gonna use it side by side with the planner that I have. But the little one that I bought, it has some things in it that I'm wondering if they can turn into a real way to organize myself in a way that's gonna work. So you don't have to spend a whole bunch of money. Instead of buying the $60 focus planner that I would need to buy 4 of to get me through the year, I got the little $6 book down the Marshalls, and I know what I want to put into. I know what I'm hoping to get out of it. So maybe that will make it something that's more functional in my life. So that would be my advice. You don't have to jump into planning with the washi tape and the bullet journals and all of that. Yeah. First, think about what you want out of the planner, and then find the one that fits those things for you.
Yeah.
That's where I was going to go with it, because my first question to myself is always, what am I trying to do? And what are the tools I need to help me achieve that? And so I'm in between. Mine was, I think, like $30. This is, like I said, the Passion Planner. It usually says Passion Planner, but I drew over it. And it really meets all of my needs. I'm even moving my sewing drawings into the back of the book. So I have one book for studio, for sewing. And for me, there's also not one perfect book. I think a lot of times the planning piece gets taken up by trying to make the process and the book perfect, and it's just not. So find something that is close to what you think you can use, and then go from there. And like we've already said, you can customize it or whatever. And the last thing for me to get started in a new year, I always like to do what I call the conscious closeout. I think I said this, I can't remember, where I just review the year, ask questions around what it was I was trying to achieve. Did I achieve it? If I didn't, what kept me from doing it? And I have different categories that I work through. And then once I can close out the year, then I move into what do I hope to do for the coming year. But for me, there's no perfect book. Pick one.
I would recommend, if we're thinking about streamlining, if someone's thinking about streamlining or whatever, and just going to a new process, if there's something that's working for you 100% and never fails you, whatever that one thing is, maybe build on that to maybe streamline. Because I think that's what I did. Because I was that person with 3 and 5 books. Okay, it's in this book. Okay, it's in now it's in this book. Because I didn't take this to a client's meeting, but now my life has changed. If there's something that you do, because it's got to fit your personality also. And so if there's one thing that you do, like maybe build on that. Okay, I like this about this. And then if there's something you like about that, just maybe identify the things that you do love, that do work for you, that do match your personality, and build from there. And everything she said and she said.
And I would also add on to everything she said is to plan to plan. One of the things that in the full focus videos, they were like, one of your goals every week should be to plan the week.
Yeah.
And so plan
Sunday afternoon.
It's your personal office hours.
Exactly. We've had conversations about having a plan, just a planning time where we just get together and plan. So plan to plan. And I realized when I went back through the planner I have is that on Sunday nights, I would climb into bed with the planner and plan the next week and say, okay, here are the patterns I want to work on. Here's what I need to do. So plan to plan, and it'll start to form consistency, because that's where I got the consistency that I have this year that I didn't have before. It's because I was just like, oh, I need a planner. I got one, but I never made a plan to even use the planner. So plan to plan.
I love this. Plan to plan. Otherwise, your planner, it will end up like quite a few that I have here at my house that have one sentence written in them. And then that's enough of that. Let me go buy another book before I go ahead and lose this one. And so plan to plan, I think, is a really smart idea. You all are amazing. Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation about planners. And come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Stitch Please podcast, the official podcast of Black Women Stitch, the sewing group where Black Lives Matter. We appreciate you supporting us by listening to the podcast. If you'd like to reach out to us with questions, you can contact us at blackwomenstitch@gmail.com. If you'd like to support us financially, you can do that by supporting us on Patreon, Patreon. And you can find Black Women Stitch there in the Patreon directory. And for as little as $2 a month, you can help support the project with things like editing, transcripts, and other things to strengthen the podcast. And finally, if financial support is not something you can do right now, you can really help the podcast by rating it and reviewing it anywhere you listen to podcasts that allows you to review them. So I know that not all podcast directories or services allow for reviews, but for those who do, for those that have a star rating or just ask for a few comments, if you could share those comments and say nice things about us at the Stitch Please podcast, that is incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. Come back next week and we'll help you get your stitch together.